Welcome to Mission Driven Monday. My name is Chantel Adams, and I'm here with Abbey Glass. Abbey is the founder of Abbey Glass, which is a fashion design house that also manufactures clothing and distributes them. She partners with, I think I read on your website, over 70 different retail stores around the country where your clothing is sold. She's based here in the Atlanta area, and she's a young entrepreneur who graduated from the Rhode Island School of Design. I think you also studied overseas and you've won some awards, and it was real thrilling when I first met you. And I remember being kind of nervous because I was like, oh gosh, I don't know. I'm probably wearing something from like,
you always were bringing your A game to every meeting. So I was like, how does she have so many children? She looks fabulous.
Well, thanks. But you're always so put together. Your clothing is beautiful. It's so tailored. And, I know if I had a closet full of Abbey Glass, I would just be fit and fabulous. And I would feel so good about myself walking through downtown. So I just want to thank you for the work that you do. And I know that it has been hard work. When I think about somebody who designs clothes and manufactures them and does all that, there are a lot of little girls out there who, every day they're coming home and they're drawing things that they would like to one day create. And I bet you probably did that as a little girl as well. And now you're grown up and you actually get to do that in real life. So it's pretty cool to see.
Yeah, it's very cool. It's definitely not what I thought it was as a 10-year-old.
It's a lot more. Well, I know when you combine, I think about all the things that I love to do, and I know you and I worked together for a little while. We were part of this group of entrepreneurs, and I don't know if you're like me, but I love to build a business and I think about how to create a business, but I hate the actual selling part. I like to think about how to create it and grow it, but then I'm like, okay, now you go sell it.
Right.
So anyways, it's fun to talk to you today. I have 3 questions that I ask every mission-driven woman, and we're just going to dive right in. So if you're ready, then I'm ready.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. So Abbey, I want you to tell me about what you're most proud of. I know you've done a lot. I don't know what you're going to say here, but I just like to know, tell me about something that you're really proud of.
Yeah, that is definitely a hard question for an entrepreneur because it seems that the mark is always moving. But I think even in retrospect, I may be the most proud of actually starting my business. I think a lot of people talk about starting a business or, dream of it. And I think it wasn't even that intentional when I started. It just I just went for it. I jumped off the cliff without really looking down first. And luckily I had a lot of support from my family. But yeah, I think just taking the plunge and saying, I'm going to do this differently. I'm going to go out on my own. I'm not going to, take the 9-to-5 job or whatever that job would have been. And not move to New York and not follow the rest of my peers from design school, and try and carve a new path for myself. I think I didn't realize that I had a lot of courage to do that, but I think now looking back, I am very proud of myself for doing that. And it's it's exciting to think back about it, and knowing what I know now, maybe it was naivete rather than courage, but I'm very proud of that.
I know. I think sometimes if we would have known all the things that we would have to go through to get to where we are now, we might not have done it. Right. But you're right. Not knowing, sometimes it's easier to jump, feet first or head first or however it is. And,
however.
When you think about, though, taking that first step, I just want to ask you a little follow-up question. Was there anything that pushed you to do that? Or was there some kind of outside force, or was there somebody that really believed in you? Was there something that made you say, okay, I think I can do this because?
Right. That's a great question. I don't know if I can pinpoint one particular catalyst. I think it's more it was more about kind of like having the confidence and, like growing up in a household that gave me confidence to take risks or know that I could, be something, or, like encouragement from a young age kind of affects
Right.
what you do later on. So I think that's definitely kind of a long-term catalyst to allow me to have that courage, but also kind of a weird energy that is hard to describe. I think I had this like unquenchable thirst to like problem solve and like uh just like sprint into hurdles of like craziness. I wanted like the biggest challenge of all time, and I just had the energy for it, and I think I'm still being propelled by that energy. I don't know how I'm doing it now, but
Well, I love that. And I mean, what the cool
yeah,
thing about what you do is that there's actually something tangible that you can look at and see and be like, wow, I did that, I created that, and
yeah,
made.
yeah. And I think also as a creative person, I think that's also like a need that comes from inside of you, is to like create things. And I remember when I was a kid, I would just make things constantly. Like I couldn't stop. I was like addicted. And anything, earrings, belts, clothes, like I just wanted to make things. And like I wasn't even that interested in wearing it. It wasn't like about me, my self-expression really. Obviously I'm wearing like a white t-shirt. I'm like a pretty casual person,
Yeah.
but it was almost about like creating this world. And I just like kept wanting to like create for this world, which
Mhm.
has now become my brand. And I just continue to love creating for it, even if I'm not necessarily like a part of it all the time. I can kind of go in and out. um it's this creative outlet for me that I just love,
Yeah, I love that. Well, I
doing.
know you've been doing it for a few years now and you're in it and you've had challenges, and I've watched you kind of navigate those challenges and still continue forward. And,
Mhm.
um, your business has been growing every year since you started. Tell me a little bit about what you're learning right now in this season that you're in.
Ooh. Yeah. So I'm definitely in growth season. I would say that's like the best word to describe it. So, um, it's kind of like when you know what you need to do, and you have to find great people, or like step up to the plate yourself, or figure out how you're going to execute things in order to grow. Cause you've got, like I've got a lot of things to sell. I'm designing new things. I'm creating a brand. I really kind of feel like I know who my customer is. I'm
Mhm.
not necessarily in as much discovery as I was before. Now I'm really saying like, okay, I know who my woman is. I know who this brand is for. I need to go find those women. And like, how do I find them? How do I talk to them? How do I communicate with them? Where do they shop? Like,
Yeah.
what are they looking for? How do I make my product even better than last time to give them more of what they want? Or how do I express myself more, but in a way that's marketable or commercial? So that's kind of, that's definitely the season that I'm in, is like refining and growing. And then I guess currently like what I'm working on, and we discussed this earlier,
Yeah.
is like building a team. HR is a big season of my life right now. Understanding people, like if you want to build a business, which not everybody wants to do. I've had a lot of friends who've closed their businesses, creative businesses, manufacturing businesses, that have, I think, been even better products than what I'm making. And because they didn't want to build a team, and they didn't want to manage people, and that they don't want that to be their life. People don't really talk about that in our business because it's not glamorous, and um, it's not sexy. So it's kind of like I would be bored talking to somebody about it if it were a sales
Yeah.
person. But but yeah, that's like the main part of what I'm doing right now, is trying to find people who really believe in our brand and want to help build it with me, because there's only so much I can do alone.
Yeah.
Um,
And I would imagine that like you said, you're in a growth season for your business right now, but in the past you had to kind of like learn the bit, not only learn the business, but like you said, like learn who your customer is and where they are and all that. And now kind of having to be in a season where you're shifting that, and now it's about building this team. And
Mm-hmm.
you have a company that has your name on it, and it really is a reflection of who you are. And so
Mm-hmm.
being able to find those people that are your people,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
a challenge.
It's interesting. Yeah. And also, like, I'm full disclosure, I'm turning 30 this year, which is very exciting. But, I'm also, I have an unstable internet connection. I'm good. I'm also like getting older. Like, I started this business in my 20s, and I thought everyone I hired could be my friend, and that's just not how it is.
So
I'm to become like a mature boss lady, and I really identify like where my place is as a CEO and a boss, and where other people's who support me, who I appreciate immensely, where their positions are, and how do I interact with them, and um, how do I manage people who are older than me and like
yeah.
experience than me, or younger, or say, there's like all of those things that are kind of becoming really interesting with bringing people on to a brand that's my name and that's me. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you're doing a good job, but I know that it is a lot. I hope that you have found maybe like a group that you can connect with that can help you do that. Because I think that, I mean, especially where we live in Atlanta, there are so many people who have started businesses and created something from scratch. And so we're all kind of trying to build this team together.
mm-hmm.
And I can imagine that there's a lot of good networking opportunities out there.
Yeah, I would say so. I am now part of a group called Launchpad 2X, which is a women CEO networking group. And it's, we don't really talk about our feelings very much. It's a lot more about like, what are the opportunities for us to be better at what we do, and kind of like, what are the financial implications of everything that we do, what is new and what's out there. We had a whole 3-hour class at what's called Atlanta Tech Village about HR best practices, which is really cool, because it's all women that are own or high up C-suite in a company of all sizes. It was startups, mid-level people who had worked at Coca-Cola, like, it's a lot of there's a variety of people, and everyone's kind of like sharing resources and saying, hey, I've used this before, it's good for X, Y, and Z, but not for this, or I don't know. I think it's been a really nice, because I'm, again, in the growth and execution stages. So I just really need to find tools to kind of get to where I want to go.
Yeah. I love that. Well, that is a great segue into our next question. When you think about getting to where you want to go and who you want to be, and kind of that aspirational future, tell me about that. What does the future look like for you, Abbey Glass?
Gosh, Chantel, you have so many good questions. So hard.
So hard. I know. But I think these are good questions to think about, because, I only asked 3 questions, but it really helps us think about, like, where did we come from? Where are we right now? And where do we want to go? And you're always kind of in a state of flux between all of those 3 things.
Yeah. So true.
No, I like to think about them, and I like to talk to other women.
I love it. I know. I love these. I love this. It's really putting a lot of things in perspective. We should do this more often. Okay. So, future is interesting, because it could be, who do I want to be tomorrow or next week, or where do I see myself in 10 years? And I think the only thing that I really know is, like, I think right now I'm really focused on, like, who do I want to be personally, and like, what kind of person do I want to be? What are my values? Like, all of those things are becoming very important to me right now. And I think I want to be a lot more self-loving. I think, because things aren't always, you're never going to be at your goal. Like the mark keeps moving, like as you grow, the stakes keep rising. You want to be a $1 million company, then you want to be a $5 million company. I mean, like you're never enough, or it's never enough. So I think really like, celebrating our small victories. Like we had a great grand opening of our new store in Shops of Buckhead. We had a great turnout, people bought things, we made money, like the store looks beautiful. Our neighbors are lovely. Like there's so many small wins where you're just like, wow, like this is really great. And not being a person who constantly is saying, but it's not enough. I think that's something I've done for a long time, because this is such a steep hill that I'm, hiking up and trying to get, the manufacturing business is incredibly capital intensive. So you are always kind of in the hole, because you're always buying and then selling and then buying more and then selling, you're always catching up to yourself. So I think getting out of the mindset of like, it's never enough, and saying like, this is really great what's happening, and identifying the small wins and having a shorter term perspective at the same time as this long-term goal. Like I want to be $20 million apparel company. I think that is going to make me into a better person. And that's like what I'm trying to be for the future. And then also I think building, do you listen to how I built this?
I've listened to a couple episodes. Yes.
It was kind of interesting. A lot of the entrepreneurs that are interviewed talk about sacrificing a lot of personal relationships for their businesses, like friendships, and like a lot of people get divorced, and it just becomes like a kind of a point of contention. And I definitely think that I've put my friendships kind of second as I built my business. It's hard to relate to somebody who's so invested in their own business. And, it's hard for people it's hard for me to small talk with people who, are talking about UGA football. Like I just don't watch it. Like I don't, so.
Yeah, I get that. Totally get that.
So
I don't want to talk about UGA football either.
So I think, that's another personal growth thing for me, is really finding people. And I have found a few people that I really enjoy connecting with, even if they don't know a lot about my business. It's almost like having a really like quality over quantity friendships with people, but allowing myself to take time for that and putting it as a priority, rather than saying, oh, this is just, I should be working, or should be cut second. So, I think those are the personal things. And then for business, I would say, I want to find the right balance, especially in our product, of risk taking and like really giving people what they want. And I think that's been something that we've been experimenting with over the past few years. And I want to make sure that I'm not sacrificing too much creativity for commercialism. And I want to really like fine tune that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, those are great things to work on. And I know that, whenever you're a leader of anything, leadership is lonely. And especially when you're building a business. And like you said, I mean, there's not a lot of people that have your exact job that live in Atlanta, right? So there's not a lot of people who understand, what your work looks like, or what your family life looks like, or what you're thinking about. And so really to find those right people, which I feel like was kind of a theme throughout our entire conversation. I mean, you're looking at that personally, and you're also looking at that in your work. And there's something that I always talk about a lot, and it's something that I learned from Jimmy Starnes, who came and talked to us at Fly with People a couple of years ago. And he talks a lot about like rhythms, rituals, and rest. And he talks about those three things, but I'm like, there's a fourth R, and that's relationships. And you really have to have that other that fourth R, those relationships, to make everything else work, I feel like.
That's really true. Yeah, that's really, really true. So, yeah, I mean, I do think I found a lot of that in our plywood group. The other thing that's unique about me is I don't have kids and I'm not married. So, well, not that unique, but you know, in the South, being not married,
So everybody wants to know, right?
No kids. Yeah. So that's another thing I feel like a lot of women's groups, or a lot of women in general, connect over, is being a mom and mom entrepreneur, and you know, building a business while having children. And like, I think there's so much community surrounding that, but that's not my I think that's the other reason why, even with all of the, you know, community initiatives that are out there, there's not a lot of people that can relate to being, you know, single women owning their own business.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good point. That's a really good point. And I think, though, even for moms who are in business, like, I know sometimes I just, like, I want to be separate from my kids and my husband. Like, can we just talk about my business and it not be about this other thing? Like, I know they're part of my life, but and I love them. If you're watching this, kids, Gavin, I love you. But I know that I've had to work my whole life to be separate from them, you know, to have my own separate identity. So.
That's really interesting to think about. Yeah. It's just all of the marketing, or a lot of marketing I've seen behind like women's entrepreneurs, support groups, or women who own stores, or like a lot of the, it's almost even like a lot of the businesses that are popping up are about being a woman and being in business. And having a family, or a mom in business, or like, this is a business for moms who want to talk about this. This is a business for moms who want to talk about that. And like, you know, I think that's great. But yes, maybe moms don't want to be just moms. Maybe they want to just
maybe we just want to be business people. Like, just treat me like a business person. Because I'm pretty sure, like, we wouldn't be having the conversation if it was men. In fact, when I interview moms for this Mission Driven Monday, when I ask them that first question, what's your proudest accomplishment, I have to specifically say, and you can't say your kids, because your kids are not your accomplishment. Like, that's a lot of pressure to put on a kid. Like, I really want to know about something that you've overcome.
Yeah. That's so funny. That's interesting. It's almost like an interesting conversation to have, to really like kind of pick that kind of marketing apart, to see if it's actually like empowering women or making them feel handicapped by their role, you know?
Yeah. Very good point. Very good point. Every time I talk to Abby, I feel like she gives me so much to think about. So I miss seeing you every month. I'm glad that we had this conversation.
Yeah, my brain doesn't stop thinking.
I know. I love that. Those are the kind of people that I love to hang out with. So thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
I hope that all of you enjoyed this episode of Mission Driven Monday, and will join me again next week for another inspiring conversation.